Now that we have learned to eliminate all of the information, such as prepositional phrase, implied prepositional phrases, infinitives, and infinitive phrases, we now can move on to the rules of subject-verb agreement. Rule number 1 tells us to disregard most prepositional phrases after the subject. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule. Anytime the subject is a fraction, or the words plenty, majority, remainder, rest, abundance, or portion, we must then look inside the prepositional phrase. So if we look at number 1, of cookies is a prepositional phrase, and in the oven is a prepositional phrase. Since we need to look outside the prepositional phrase for the subject, we see that it is the word batch. Batch is a singular word because it's talking about one thing. So therefore it's like saying she, so we would say she was. The jar of pickles is or are sitting in the fridge. Of pickles is a prepositional phrase, and in the fridge is another prepositional phrase. Looking outside of them, we see the word jar. Jar is singular, so once again it's like saying she or he, and we would say she is sitting. The majority of the students work or works very hard. Of the students is a prepositional phrase. The subject is majority, but because majority is one of the exception words, we must now look inside the prepositional phrase to make this decision. This word inside the prepositional phrase is not the subject, it's just the deciding word. Since the word is students, and that is plural, it's like saying they, so we would say they work. And finally, 2/3 of the proceeds goes to that charity. We see of the proceeds is a prepositional phrase. We see the word to. We look after it. That is not a verb, so therefore this is a prepositional phrase. When looking outside the prepositional phrase, we see the subject is the word 2/3. Since 2/3 is a fraction, as listed above, we would now need to look inside the prepositional phrase to make a decision. Proceeds is a word that is plural, so it's like saying they, so we would say they will go. Rule number 2 states that the verb always agrees with the noun that comes after the words or nor. This tells us that we must have two subjects always. So if we look at our first two sentences, we see the word to in both of them. We notice that the word that comes after it is not a verb, so we then have a prepositional phrase. Since we see the word or in both of them, once again that could be or nor, we see that there are two subjects, boy, girls, girls, boy. But we always look at the one that comes after the or nor. So because of it, in the first sentence, girls is plural, so it's like saying they, so we would say they are going. In the second one, boy is singular, so it's like saying he is going. Rule number 3 states that when a sentence begins with there or here, it is never the subject in the sentence. So instead, always look after the verb. So once again, we find our prepositional phrases to eliminate them. We cross out the there and the here to remind us that the subject is going to come after the verb somewhere. So in this case, children is the subject. It's like saying they, so we would say they are. In the second sentence, Spot is the subject. Spot is like saying he or she, so we would say he marks. Rule number 4 is about collective nouns. A collective noun is a word that indicates a group of something. In order to do this, you must look for key words. The key words you want to look for are its or their. If we see its, it's going to mean it's singular. If we see their, it means it's plural. So if we look down below, we once again see our prepositional phrases. We see the subject in both sentences is exactly the same. It's school. School is a group of fish. Therefore, we look for a clue word in the sentence, and if you look in the latter portion of the sentence, the first one says its. We said that that was singular, so it's like saying she is swimming. In the second one, we see the clue word is there. There is like saying they, so in the second sentence, we would say they are swimming. Rule number 5 just talks about titles of books, movies, and things of that sort. No matter if the words in the title is plural, the title of it is singular, so therefore it is always a singular word. So if we look at the first one, from the 1930s is a prepositional phrase. The To Kill a Mockingbird is our subject. It is one title, so it's like saying she explains. In the second one, we have 4 rules, and in society is our prepositional phrase. Lord of the Flies is our subject. It is one title, so it's like saying she promotes. Rule number 6 is just a list of words that must be memorized because they don't seem to flow in regards to the English language, such as singular words, civics, economics, mathematics. They all end in S, but they are all singular because they refer to one thing. Plural words such as scissors, pliers, or trousers really are only talking about one thing, but they always take a plural verb. You just must memorize this list. So if we look at the bottom, to the homeless is a prepositional phrase. Proceeds is the subject. That comes off the plural list, so it's like saying they, and we would say they give. Down below, measles is our subject. Measles comes off the singular list because it's talking about one disease, so it's like saying she, and you would say she remains. Rule number 7 is just a rule about the subject being the word number and looking at the word that precedes it. If it's preceded by the word a, it is always plural. If it's preceded by the word the, it's always singular. So if we look down below, of dolphins is our prepositional phrase. Near the boat is a prepositional phrase. Of dolphins is another prepositional phrase. They both have the word number as the subject. However, the first one is preceded by a, so it's like saying they, and we would say they are swimming. The bottom one, because it's preceded by the word the, it's like saying she, so I would say she is. Rule number 8 just talks about subjects which are joined by the word and. Well, obviously they are usually plural if we're talking about more than one thing. However, there are exceptions to this rule. For example, if we look down below, we see mom, dad are the subjects. Mom and dad, more than one person, so it's like saying they. We would say they drive. In the next sentence, we see cookies, milk. We typically think of they. The problem is in the latter part of the sentence, we see the word snack. That indicates to us that the cookies and milk are one snack, so it's like saying she remains. Finally, peace and honor is or are the goal of the military. Of the military is our prepositional phrase. Peace, honor are the subjects. Again, this is a tough one, but we see in the latter portion of the sentence that it's talking about one goal rather than multiple goals. So because of it, it's like saying she, and we would say she is the goal. Rule number 9, money and time, are probably the trickiest. Your best bet is to look to see if there are any clue words in the sentence to help make the decision. So in number 1, we see in school is a prepositional phrase. The subject is hours. Hours can be indicative of being singular, one chunk of time, or multiple. So when we look at the sentence, 8 hours every school is or are too much time. We're talking about one chunk of time, so it's like saying she is. In the second one, $80 is or are the cost of the ticket. We have our prepositional phrase. The subject is dollars. But we see again there that there's one cost of one ticket. So once again, it's singular. So it'll be she is.